All right. Hello. I left the window open. So we have lights. Man, I went to a screening last night of one of my friends. I guess I can say it that. So I have a buddy. He's a stunt coordinator, and he's done a bunch of films, like all the films that everybody here has watched, and well, most everybody. And his son's an actor who's in a lot of films. If you guys watched all the Mortal Kombat, the new ones, he's in those. I think they just finished the second one Mortal Kombat 2, whatever. Anyway, but anyway, Phil is the dad, and he's got 4 sons. And his oldest son, Lewis, he's acting. And I think the third son, anyway, so it's like Sam, and he is a kind of an up and coming, indie film director, really cool kind of art stuff. So we went there and we did all that, but I got to be honest, man, the best part of going to these screenings is the food. Now, the movie was cool. It was like a short film. It was really cool art, badass music, all this kind of stuff, but maybe it's just maybe I'm just have like pizza sewn into my DNA, but they had this pizza from Santa Monica brought in. Man, I would still be eating it. If it wasn't rude, I would still be there right now eating pieces of pizza. So good. That stuff was good. When my girlfriend went to the bathroom, I ate another piece. I don't even think she knows about that. I just did that on the secret. I'm like, the bathroom is over there. And she was dealing with a spider. And so I had time to eat another piece of pizza. Anyway, pizza. Am I right? So, all right. That's it. That's my anecdotal story about pizza, of which I ate a lot. I probably ate a whole pizza of pizza. Man, I'm long pizza. I was in an interesting discussion with somebody about the hypercycle token. I know pizza's so good. God. Oh, wait, I have one thing I need to, okay, let me remind people of something. I had someone ask me because I know someone that's listing a bunch of orders on these node NFTs, and I'm not going to make this a sales pitch, but anybody that throughout the time of dealing with node market if you go to the exchange and you are listing orders and you're selling tokens, because like that's what happens on an exchange, right? You go to last sales, you start looking through. It's starting to get a lot better. Obviously, you can tell like Hypercycle is the main token, but some AGIX tokens are starting to move, and some Sophia, but Hypercycle is like the main token, right? Well, if you get to the point where you've done, and this is pretty easy, but if you get to the point where you've done 1 million in total transactions, buying, selling, or the combination of both, and you'll know because we're putting an account management thing where you'll be able to like manage your account, see all of the transaction history and all that. So once you've done 1 million in total transactions, we give you one of these. So you get one. This NFT, you get it. And that's the rev share NFT. So just so you guys know. So I was trying to answer that. I had made that pretty clear to the digital private clients, but I don't know if I had made that clear to you guys. So there you go. So you want it for free? List tokens. And I think it's going to be a few weeks of this listing. Oh, by the way, I talked to one of the big wigs at Bitcoin IRA. If you are with Bitcoin IRA and you want to hold any of these assets, you go back to the exchange. They will purchase these assets, or they will like endeavor to purchase these assets for you on your behalf, and you can hold them in an IRA. So Bitcoin IRA is going to hook up with us, but you need to request it. Although I've already talked to them and we're one of their like vendors now, I guess, or I don't know how they do it. But anyway, these assets. So Hypercycle, AGIX, Sophia, Nunet, Singularity DAO, Rejuve, any of those assets, these here that you see, we're not putting Cogito on here. I don't even care. Boy, short of a goddamn miracle, I don't see any future in that token being on here because it still has to not be crap. And right now it's crap. But for the not crap tokens, there you go. So you'd be able to hold any of these assets in your IRA. Now, many of you be like, no, I want to be staking. I want to do all this. Yeah, that's fine. But some people have money in an IRA, and they also have investable money each year that they can allocate towards an IRA. And if you like, you might want to put some hypercycle tokens in your IRA. Okay, you could do that. Sweet. So there you go. So that gives you, it's another avenue for some people that were curious or that wanted to be in IRA. All right. If I did $1 million, I would be, no, not true. Not true, Neil. Over time, like I bet most people here, if you've been in the crypto space for 2 years, you've probably done, even if it was only, especially traders. I mean, you could have a trader who only is trading in and out of $10,000, but if you do that 100 times, that's $1 million in transactions, and that's only on $10,000. So it's not like, and I don't mean to belittle $10,000 is $10,000. I'm not stupid. But what I'm saying is you can get to $1 million pretty quickly, right? And for those of you that are moving heavier weight of tokens, that would come pretty quickly. So it's just like a bonus. And you know what? If you get there, you get a token. Now, obviously, if we get to the point where there's all 10,000 of them are floating out there, that we can't do that because there's only, that would be it. So anyway, there you go. Okay. Let's open up the floor for some Q&A, but we're going to talk about two things today. One, we're going to talk about mental calm and kind of how that relates, again, game theory, cognitive bias, because this is our underlying programming. But, oh, nice. Patsy, you wish you were in the USA for what? For pizza? You can get pizza anywhere, Patsy. You don't just have to be in the US. Pizza is on sale everywhere. Oh, nice, Chris. Yeah, listen, when you guys understand, that most institutional investment happens through OTC exchange. It does not happen through regular exchanges. That's not the way it works. Nobody that's buying any real weight in these assets, even in the stock market, it's same thing. No one goes and does these and publicly exposes these transactions. That's why they tell you later on, they'll make these in their filings, in their what is it, the 10K or something K filings, where they have to expose, oh, we did this, we bought this, we added this, but they're all over the counter transactions. No one's doing large transactions publicly because they don't want to move the market doing a transaction. I was looking at, I went into PancakeSwap just to see if I was to buy a master node, what it would cost me. And if I was to sell a master node's worth of tokens, what it would cost me. And I think the price effect was like 41% one way and infinity the other, meaning like there weren't enough tokens to buy a master node, but you could sell one. Oh, it would take the price from like 91 cents. This is hypercycle. It would take the price from 91 cents to 40 cents. And that doesn't count the robots and that doesn't count the fees. So over a $500,000 $500,000 worth of tokens would return like 200 and change. And you're just like, bleh. And then so again, OTC, there's a reason we built this. I mean, we built this for us, for the digital private clients and for the digital investors, like this community. But I mean, obviously, everyone who's not a effing fool, if you're buying or selling any kind of quantity, you first look at any OTC possibilities because that's wallet to wallet with just a smart contract in the middle. Same thing. If you're buying large weight of Bitcoin, you talk to Coinbase, they'll put you to their OTC desk. It's a wallet to wallet trade. They have an escrow. Guess what? Same thing. it didn't work out on my deal because I used like an old school whatever. But it is like old school OTC. Now they're not doing OTC trades with smart contracts and code. They're doing it with humans. But like you have a person at Coinbase or whatever, right? Alice sends money to Bob. Charlie sends tokens to Bob. Bob swaps the tokens and the money between Alice and Bob. That's how an OTC transaction works. We just took Bob out and put code in place of Bob. Bob is code. So now it's Alice and code and Charlie, right? And so when you have a situation like that, you don't move the market. You're not pinging any APIs. You're not no one. You could buy or sell. Well, you couldn't do it for too many millions of tokens because they're not out there. Okay, so in any way, that conversation, I'm taking you through my mental thing. That conversation took us to another conversation about what happens like the moment that these tokens start getting married into node licenses. Well, that's an important moment. That's when that's going to be a come to Jesus moment. My guess is here in a few days to a week, whenever the audits come clean, whenever they get the clean sheets on those, and they release the software which allows the marrying, or I think fusing is better, but whatever, of hypercycle tokens into node licenses. At that moment, you're going to see a effing, I'm trying to not to cuss, S-box, an S-box, you know what S-box is, of tokens disappear from circulation. Right now, they're floating around. They're sitting at Singularity DAO. They're sitting in liquidity pools. That crap is over with. The second that these tokens can be fused or married into node licenses, and that marriage occurs, you're going to see this market become extremely anemic. And when it does, it is going to be really, oh God, I'll answer that in a second, Neil. You don't have to get them off the exchange because we don't have them. Listen, let me explain how this works. Neil, let's say you want to go sell tokens. You post an order to sell the tokens. A smart contract locks those tokens up out of your wallet. Look, you go here. You go to the exchange. You go, oh, okay, cool. Hypercycle tokens. I want to list tokens. You hook up your wallet. You click MetaMask. I don't have any wallets on this computer, so I can't on purpose, right? But when you create that, you're taking your tokens and you're locking them in a smart contract, and the only way they're unlocked is if you cancel the order or someone buys them. Please understand, the exchange never has your assets. I want everyone to say to really think about what I'm saying. We built an exchange that does not ever hold your assets or your money ever, not for one fucking second. I'm cussing because it's important. You need to understand this is the difference between a DEX or a centralized exchange. You're not giving us anything and you're not taking anything from us. This is a way to programmatically connect a buyer and a seller with audited smart contracts in the middle, not humans. There's no people in there. There's nothing on the exchange. All this is doing is connecting two people in the Etherverse. That's it. It's plugging Alice and Charlie together, and Bob is the code. You guys got to nail this, because this is going to be important as you guys move forward as investors. This is going to become the norm. This will not be the exception. It's only the exception right now because people, they're comfy with centralized exchanges. Point to point. Yes, that's the key. Point to point. So Neil, when you say you bought, and yes, it's very low liquid right now. Why? Well, because people have to put orders in. People have to offer up tokens to sell, or they have to offer up purchase orders to sell US dollars into XYZ. We're building that out right now. That's what the ordered book is. Instead of an order book, it's an ordered book. It's going to be an ordered book with sell orders and stablecoin purchase orders that looks like a regular order book. And that's going to be, we're building that. But, none of this stuff, one, it doesn't build itself for free. Two, it doesn't build itself. So we have a list, we have a big repository at GitHub where we put it in the line, and Brandon does all this really cool stuff with the devs, and he's kind of the project manager of all this, and it's just a lot of work. So that's why we have to really think about each of the things that we launch in order, like what gives the most people the most benefit as quick as possible. And again, everything has to go, we build it, we audit it, we tweak it, we audit it, we practice deploy it, we audit it, and then we deploy it. So this is it's like a thing, right? So this is exactly right. This is not a market price. This is what people are willing to sell it at. And I think these orders of $1.10, $1.15, all this, I think they're cheap. And I'll tell you why. So this gets back to the discussion that we were having, where we were saying, okay, well, what would you say is like a price prediction for Hypercycle? Well, I think the price prediction, the near term, which I don't do price predictions because you always look like a damn fool, but I'm going to give you one just which you're going to take with a grain of salt, obviously, but I'm going to do it for the purposes of explaining where my brain was at. To sell pre-TGE tokens like Twin. Well, not pre-TGE, because if the tokens don't exist, the token generation event is like when the tokens exist. Now, the minute the smart contract, a little bit of that's kind of disingenuous. A TGE, the token probably existed 3 or 4 days earlier. Yes, kind of. And I say yes, kind of. We're talking to the Twin team about doing, at the same time as the launch, offering a variety of orders where people could come and buy, just like you see here. There'd be a bunch of offerings of Twin tokens on the day of the TGE that you could just come and just start buying. Now, will that be the same price that early investors may have gotten? Like, say the token launches at, I don't know, 7.5 cents. Let's just say 7.5 cents. It might be on here for 10 cents, 10.5, 11, 12, whatever they decide to do. The benefit of that is they don't have to give us a discount because we don't have their tokens. We're not a launch pad. So they would just make the listings, and that money would go directly to the team, which is good because when they deal with launch pads, the way these things work is the launch pads are like, we're going to turn you onto our community. It's going to be awesome, but we need a discount. So the teams have to give these launch pads a huge discount, at least 15%, usually more. So they get that guaranteed discount, and they don't see any of the benefit. They also don't see any of the benefit if the token goes up on day one. Like, say the token goes from 7.5 cents to 50 cents. They don't see any of that. They see about 5 cents or 5.5 or 6 cents, probably 6 cents. That's all they see. So for them, they could actually set a bunch of slowly escalating orders, and they could watch it throughout the day and see what people are willing to pay. They could cancel expensive orders, put in more comfortable order, whatever. Does that make sense? And so that's kind of cool. So yes, we think they're going to do something. We just don't know to what extent. I have a lot of communication with the Twin team. Some things I can, and some things I kind of can't discuss, like NDA based stuff. But I know that they do want to have more access to the Twin tokens for people in the beginning, because you will use the Twin tokens as you build out your actual Twin profile, and make it more, because the Twin thing, as we get closer, we'll talk more about it, but they have a lot of very obvious business to business kind of in the same way that Hypercycle has a very clear, path to profit. Like, we sell compute to businesses. That's pretty simple. Business to business, real world money. It's the same thing with Twin. Twin has very clear use cases for businesses, HR, the legal field, where they can go in and replace bad tech with good tech, just like overnight. They can help onboard new employees. They can help offboard employees that are trying to hit the sticks, protecting intellectual property, kind kind of managing your employees to manage themselves and leverage AI tools. So it's just going to be really cool. So yeah, that was a long-winded discussion about that, but yeah. Anyway, getting back to the hypercycle price, I say my theory is the moment that you can take your tokens and marry them or fuse them to the node licenses, you're going to see the market become extremely anemic, and any price effects and slippage and bot behavior you see on the DEXs now is going to get way worse. Because once you've married your tokens to your node licenses and you're effectively tilling, why on earth would anybody pull their tokens out? And then you start extrapolating forward. Okay, you have one node, and then so many months later it becomes 2, then 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 1,024. So 10 splits later, if you were making, $1 a node a day, now you're making $1,024 a node a day. And that's probably, depending on, again, a lot of scenarios like where your tokens are, where they are, are they married to node licenses? Are they parked at a data center? Are they whatever? But you can split those node licenses as fast as 6 months. That's not the likely month. That's like as fast as it could possibly happen. And in the beginning, I think it's going to be really fast. I think when compute starts within 3 to 6 months, you're going to see splits. Boom, 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 boom. In the beginning, I mean, the whole world needs AI compute. So you factor ahead 6 years, and the early participants are making, even if it's 10 cents a day, you're making $124 per day per node. And you had 10 of those, $1,000 a day. Is there anybody here that can't survive on $1,000 a day? Well, who knows? In 5 years, maybe we go into mass hyperinflation. But if that's the case, that would have propagated down to the same. It's the same. So if there's mass hyperinflation, you'd be making way more on the compute services that hypercycle will be charging to the businesses, yada, yada. So you can't, you can think about like inflation, hyperinflationary and debasement effects, but it propagates pretty evenly in tech. So like who would unmarry, like really? Who's going to go, I don't want that money anymore? You might sell your license and cash out and say, I'm going to the Bahamas. I'm going to buy a damn mansion and some motorcycles, and I'm just going to do some Evel Knievel shit all day long. Cool. That's what you want to do, bro. Good luck. Don't break your neck. But even if you did that, what would you do? Well, you'd probably come right here and sell your node license with the tokens embedded in production, because you'll be able to do that. You just swap ownership. Another reason why that 1155 token that has the wealth and the revenue generation separate, right? Those abilities, that's so you can resell and flip the node license. So it doesn't make any sense that people would pull that. Mostly tokens are not coming out of node licenses. So it doesn't take much to see where this is going to go. This resolves itself at some balance between what node licenses in production are producing, the anemic kind of market availability of the token, microeconomics availability of that token in the free market, which nowhere. And then you think, well, why would centralized exchanges list this? They may not. It would be too illiquid. But you could easily see this token get squeezed up, I think, before compute starts. Well, before I give my version, there's about 100 of us here. I want to see what you guys think. What do you think the price of this token will be when the marriages begin? Between marriage time, which is in like days from now, between marriage time and March of 2024. So in the next 4 to 5 months. So between marriage time and 4 to 5 months, what do you think the price of the token will be? What your own beliefs, doesn't have to be what I think. I'm kind of curious to see what you guys think. According to Paul Krugman. Well, there is definitely Paul Krugman is a really smart guy, but he's old school Keynesian. And he's not, these guys they never like to talk about debasement effects. Like if you print money, you're printing money, right? If you lend into existence, you're printing money. That's printing, right? Like if it doesn't matter if there's money in a safe. If I lend $100 trillion, it's out there. It's floating around. It's chasing goods and services. Remember, inflation is always and everywhere a monetary phenomenon. Now, right now, we don't have those monetary forces, not in the way that they would have you believe, but they are sure on the precipice. Like it's very obvious. I mean, we saw what happened in 2021, right? Stimulus money made stuff crazy, and we saw the effects of showering the economy with currency, undeserved currency units. But you can't print prosperity. So there you go. Okay, $3, 5, 2 to 3, 2. Cisco, I'll give you a near term, but I'll give you near term in a second. I'll give you near term, and I'll give you the day compute starts estimates. Okay, 150. Okay, interesting. 960, Charlene. Interesting. Very, very specific. Okay, I'm going to stick with Dale because Dale, I think, is the closest to what my mind is at. Here's where I'm at. I think we're going to be a $1.50-ish or more within 1 month, like 30 calendar days. Most months are calendar 30 of the marriage. So whether that's tomorrow, next week, whatever day the marriage of the tokens begins, it's going to hoover up the price. Because people are going to say, wait a minute, I want to be tilling. I don't want to lose my reputation. I need to do it. I'm going to bite the bullet. Okay, cool. I think the price is going to be $1.50. I think before from the transition from tilling to compute in March, we think it's going to be March, which is here. Look, November, December, January, February, March, 5 months. I think in those next 5 months, those next 150-ish days, I think we see the $2 to $5 range, which is interesting because do you guys remember when we did that little study with GPT-4 and Claude Do? I haven't tested Ernie out. That the range was the low estimate was $5.50. Thought that was pretty interesting. And again, there's a lot of moving parts. So then you think, okay, if the range is $1.50 to $5, then you go, and yeah, listen, more tokens are being released, but Jim, that doesn't make a difference. Not really, because there's still a huge disparity between the amount of licenses that are out there. There are way more licenses than there are tokens to fill them. Like it's like a 2 or a 3x. So that disparity has to be met. Would you want a bunch of licenses with no tokens in them that are not tilling? Because remember, if after a certain point, okay, yes, everybody that has licenses right now, they're going to have a certain amount of reputation. You still have to marry in the tokens and begin tilling. If you don't do that, you're going to lose that. Your nodes go back to 1. You lose that reputation. They have to be in production. You either have to have a box, run it on a PC, their software, or pledge it to like HyperPG or Hyperpools, whatever that looks like in the coming days and weeks, or that reputation goes away. Who wants to give their reputation away? If you take your licenses with no tokens and you send them to HyperPG, guess what they got to do? They got to get tokens. Where are they going to get them from? They can't print them out of thin air. HyperPG is a partnership, but they have to borrow the tokens. Remember, Hypercycle is not HyperPG. HyperPG is a partnership. HyperPG borrows from the treasury and pays a rate on that. They pay you, they pay them. Everybody pays everybody. There's not enough tokens, period. I don't care if you get to bring Stephen Hawking back from the dead, get a damn Ouija board. There are not enough tokens to service the need for the tokens. So there are right now, I mean, I know one group that has 20 master nodes. Well, do the math. Everyone, real quick, just 524, 288. Just make it 500,000. What's 500,000 times 20? Yep. So like you see how quickly the tokens just get absorbed into thin air. Now I know the founders are locking up all their tokens for an additional, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years. That's more tokens that will be available for HyperPG. That's good, because in a roundabout way, they could lock up their tokens, and as their token emissions occur, basically HyperPG could borrow those in this kind of roundabout way. But like, yeah, and also Lance, that's assuming that every single token that gets released, that everybody pushes all their tokens. They're not going to do that. Some people are going to leave their tokens at Singularity DAO collecting some kind of yield, even if that yield is 4 or 5%. Some people are going to go park their tokens in IRAs and investment facilities and not touch them at all. They're just going to, there's a lot of people, I'd say 10 to 20% of the people are just banking on the price of the token. 10 to 20% of the tokens will never hit the licenses. Does that make sense? So the commodity is the tokens. That's the commodity until we get to the end of the licenses. When now we fast forward 3 or 4 or 5 years where all the licenses have been sold and most of the tokens are in circulation, then it's going to be a market. You're going to look at what you can get with those tokens and licenses for compute, and there's going to be a price. There'll be all sorts of ways to measure what the price of the token should be based on the revenue that's generated. And you probably have to go out 6 years to really get that number, because then it would be, okay, when a node has split all 10 times and you have 1,024 nodes with 1 token each, what are they earning? What is that return? What does that mean? That return minus out the price of the license divided by 1,024, because it would be 1/1,024th of the price of the license. So it's 12 or 15 cents. And then the token generates X amount per day. So what does that mean the token's worth? Like, we can't even do that math for the next 6 years. We just have to guess at it. But you know how these things work, that people front run these things. So, man. Yeah. Okay. Question is, so my prediction is that goes back to my prediction is the $2 to $5 range between about a month after the marriages can happen and March. That's my gut prediction. And I know that's a big swath. That's a big area, but I think $1.50 to $5 is like almost obvious to me. And I've been in a few of these rodeos. Okay. Question. Is the NFT something extra for 1,000 to get extra tokens bonus? No, this NFT here is specific to revenue generated on the exchange. And I don't want you guys to think this is a sales pitch. So I'm going to go through it real quick. These specific NFTs are a revenue token and a voting token. The revenue side of it is 20 to 30% based on how many tokens are sold of the revenue of the exchange gets divided evenly among all the tokens. Okay. Now the other 70 to 80%, again, depending on how many of these NFTs are sold, goes to purchasing tokens, which we'll vote on, from DEXs, low liquidity situations, taking those tokens off of those DEXs and bringing them back to Hypercycle, listing them as orders 5% higher than the DEX price. And you say, why would you list it higher? 1, to protect everyone's portfolio, to keep the price, consistent and a little bit higher. 2, because buying off here, even at 5%, is still cheaper than buying off a DEX. In most circumstances, by the time you pay DEX fees, slippage, and price impact, like I was looking at the price impact, even 10,000 tokens has a price impact of 4% plus point, so almost 5%. So by just taking out price impact, we get to support the community. We get to elevate the price slightly. It creates a buyer side accretive bias in the tokens, and then that goes back to the community. Does that make sense? So it's a slow upward consistent spiral. Because I saw what happened. Everybody whined and cried and complained when the price goes down 3 cents, even though everybody's like, I'm going to be marrying my tokens to my nodes. And also, it's like, okay, then what do you care about the price of the token? What difference does it make? Well, no, because my portfolio. So yeah, but you can't have both, man. Like, people are so, that's why we're going to talk about emotional control today, and like calm. And that's what when we get into our brain goo here in a second. Anyway, so that's what that is. So the NFT, the NFT for node market gives you a percentage of the revenue share, and it also promotes pulling tokens off of DEXs and listing them here on the exchange to give people more opportunities. The more listings, the tighter the spreads are. There you go. After 10 splits, Chris asks, it's one token per node? Yes. Can the original node run on one token, or does it need all? Well, there's no, at that point, there's not like an original node. It has split 10 times. And no, there's no, it doesn't time expire. You now have 1,000. If you had one node license, you now have 1,024 individual nodes, all processing compute transactions. Now they would need 1,024 times the compute power, meaning you would probably at that point be leveraging some hardware facilities, but that's the whole point. And also a lot of people are like, well, why would you build a facility for this? Don't think of it that way. Think, I already have a facility. I have a server farm. I have a compute facility. I'm already doing XYZ for my clients. But you know what I might also do? I might also say, I'm going to allocate 10 to 20% of our compute capacity towards hypercycle as another revenue stream. Or I have a bunch of extra electricity. It wouldn't cost much. Like maybe you have a solar facility. Solar facilities generate a lot of electricity they don't use. They actually, they like burn it off. It's weird. And so I might want to use that, basically free electricity, and do some data mining or some compute. And so you're going to see a lot of facilities larger and larger with excess capacity leveraging hypercycle, because it's just another revenue stream for them. So it's not always going to be just like, why would people spend the millions and millions it would take? Well, you might already have spent. It might already be a sunk cost. So you got to think all of the participants in the system and how that might look. Isn't it true, Adam asks, that with each split, the subnodes lose 10%? No. Why would they lose? Why would they lose any percent? No, Tufi didn't. I don't think Tufi said that. I think that might have been taken out of context. A node is a node. So think about this. You have a node, it's processing X amount of transactions. The only way it would lose value is if it was doing less transactions. Now, there may be some ramp time. So for instance, let's say the network has 100 nodes. Let's just keep it simple. There's 100 nodes processing transactions. And let's say that the whole network splits. This would not be the case, but the whole network splits at the same time, but the compute business is the same. Well, now every node, that moment, as long as we assume that the hardware is the same, that the compute capacity is the same, if the nodes all split and there's only X amount of currency coming in for the total compute, right? The compute revenue. Well, if it splits, then everybody would be at 50% until you scale up the business side. But the thing is, there is constant and overwhelming demand for AI compute. My guess is it's going to be at capacity, waiting and waiting and waiting. And as splits occur throughout different master nodes throughout the ecosystem, as those splits occur, there will already be sufficient demand for that. So I don't think you're going to lose any. I don't think you're going to lose anything. Yeah, but yes, and Jim is absolutely correct. The original node has to start with 1,024 tokens. And as it splits, each split reduces the amount of tokens per node. So if you have 1,024, you split into 2 nodes of 512, and then 4 of 256, and then 8 of 128, and then 16 of 64, and then you see where we're going. And as you do that 10 times, you get to 1,024 nodes of 1 token each. That's as far as it can go. I mean, that's just where we're at right now. And again, there has to be a subtlety to this because, well, we're on a long leash because there's just many of these things as far as like day-to-day profit and things like that. We can't possibly guess what those are. But I can tell you this from being on the meetings, like the executive meetings and stuff, there's no shortage of compute clients. Let me just put it that way. There will be, for many years, they won't be able to service the amount of compute that's already demanded. Many years. And again, why on earth would anyone pull their tokens out if every 6 to 8 to 9 months they split and their money doubles? Like, think about that for a second. If you had a business that every 6 months to even 6 months to a year, it doubled because of the doubling effect. Who's going to pull their tokens out? Like, who on earth? And even if you wanted to sell your gear, your business, you just sell your business. You don't, like, if you have a coffee shop and you're going to sell it, you don't just take the coffee beans home, light it on fire and walk off. Like, deuces, I had fun. No, that doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. So no. Your original, no, Chris. If you have 8 nodes, you're going to have 8 nodes seeded with 1,024 tokens each, but you're going to end up with 8,000 plus. Does that make sense? If you were to leave them all running in perpetuity, you would 6 or 7 years down the road, you would have 8 times 1,024. So that you would have those 8 licenses would have split down to, 80, 200 and change. Does that make sense? Times whatever each node's making per day as your revenue in your pocket. Yay. Or some revenue split with investors, or some revenue split with hyperpools or hyper PG. Whew, it's a lot to it. I know it's not easy. And don't ever let me seem like I'm being short or frustrated with people. We just described this a lot, but it's a lot. It's a lot to kind of think about. But on the other side of it, if all this was obvious, some other company would have done it. Let's see. How's the data lag in the worldwide internet resulting in reputation decline because AI in LA is computing with AI halfway around the world? Well, not really, Dawn. It's not. That's not what you have to work. You don't have to think about it that way. There's going to be nodes split all over the world. So it's not because you live in LA that even if you live in LA, your nodes could be disparate. They could be, yes, if you're running them at your house, but how many people are running their nodes at their house? In large data centers, the lag time is not, a large data center in LA, we're talking, microseconds lag time versus like if you're running it at home with my shitty internet, you get, I think I always see it when I play Population 1, my lag time is like between 100 and about 300 milliseconds. So, which sucks, by the way, because human reaction time is about a quarter of a second. So that's like 250. My ping is 250. So if I'm at 300, that means in order for me to shoot down somebody else, I have to be so good on the gun that I can overcome a reaction time and a half. It's crazy. Anyway, let's get into our brain stuff. Let's get away. Let's quit thinking about money for a second and let's think about how we can make more of it by having a little bit more mental kind of calm and clarity. I think that's tout important, which means we got to get into the classroom. All right.
Hello. You're late.
You're bad at math, but I'm giving you an A+ in confidence.
Just doing what I gotta do.
Extra credit.
Okay, let's put this up for a second. Let's just get into the brain space. Oh, by the way, image generated on while I was having coffee on GPT-4. You can do it all from the app now. Dude, this thing is so dope. Just real quick, anecdotally, we were at this screening last night, and my girlfriend had a Coke and I had a Dr. Pepper. We just put them on a table. I just took a quick picture on my phone, pushed it in. I said, "What do you see?" And it went through and it said, "Oh, you have a Coca-Cola can, you have a Dr. Pepper can. The Dr. Pepper can has 23 flavors and da-da-da." It's also advertising some kind of sports event because it said like game day. Then it went into a dissertation of football promotions and football in America and and you could go and you could keep digging deeper and deeper, all from a quick photo of two cans held like at an angle on a table. Crazy. Anyway, this is a DALL-E 3 image. The other thing that's cool, when you do stuff with DALL-E 3, either through Bing Image Creator or if you do it on you own the rights to it. Like, this is mine. I could use it. I could use it in advertising or like whatever. It's like my thing. The images for the node, this was generated how? DALL-E 3. So we own the rights to it. Isn't that so cool? Anyway, I am a big fan of like playing around with artwork because I'm not artistically inclined. I suck at art. The only thing I ever did good in artwork, I actually cheated. I think I probably told you this. Oh God. Oh, I'm so embarrassed, but not really. Okay, we had an art contest. I promise I'll get to the point here in a second. We had an art contest when I was in like I was sixth grade. And I was not so good at art, but I thought I was because my mom always told me like, "You're really good at art," but that was all bullshit. That's just the kind of the things that moms say when you're not good at art. So you have the rights to use this any way you want because you generated it. Go, Antoine, I would go take a look at what you can do now. You own the rights to these images. So there you go. Anyway, so we had to have the contest was pastels. I got pastels. And on the box, I was trying to think of what to draw. And on the box, there was a horse. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just trace the horse. So I just drew the picture from the box. And I used the pastels inside the box to draw the picture that was on the box, which I traced from the box. And I submitted it. And I got third place. Third or second place. Maybe it was second place. Anyway, good enough that I got a ribbon. You know, when you're a kid, you get a ribbon. You're like, this is pretty fancy. And everybody was like, "Oh man, you got a ribbon. This is so awesome." And then I look around and there's 3 or 4 people in the class that have the same, because it's like when you're a kid and you go to the store, it's the same boxes of pastel pencils that everyone has. It's like the same few kits. And I looked and there was other people giving me the stink eye, like, "You son of a bitch, we know what you did." I'm like, arbitrage, bro. So anyway, it was an undeserved victory. It wasn't a victory, but it was like second place. It was undeserved. I think even at a young age, I understood arbitrage of a kind. Yeah, I know. Now everyone gets a ribbon. You don't just need to cheat to get a ribbon like I did. You don't have to earn it. Now you just get it. But in investing, in all of this, there's a certain amount of mental acuity that you can build as a skill set. And essentially, it does all resolve itself to emotional control. And emotional control, whether it's in your personal life or in your investing life, I mean, one kind of creates the other, right? A focus, again, you're going to hear this a trillion times, especially if you're a private client or a digital investor in the community when we go behind the wall. Focus on game theory as your decision-making process, cognitive bias as the murkiness or the fog that gets in the way of your decision-making process. And so I hammer these things home because these are the things that made me find the most success. And most of it was inspired by the Harvard speech by Charlie Munger, which I know we don't all like Charlie Munger because he hates crypto, but it doesn't matter. If you've been a billionaire for like 100,000 years, he's like 99. Like, you can learn from these guys, even though they're like old curmudgeon-y dicks. You can still, and like really kind of super bigots, but you can still learn from them, right? So today we want to kind of explore the relationship between emotional control, which I see a lot of it not existing especially in the crypto space, cognitive bias and game theory, and how understanding the relationship will significantly benefit your personal life and your decisions in your investment life. And like, the two are intermingled. If you have financial success, life gets easy. You smile more, you're happier, you're more giving, you're more altruistic. If you have financial stress, you're angry, you're mean, you cut people off, you're short, you're basically a dick. Now, it doesn't mean that having like financial success will make you less of a dick, but you might be less dickish, even in your dickiness. I don't even think that's a thing. Anyway, but it kind of resolves down to emotional control. And that is the ability to respond to situations with a clear and rational mindset. What do we always talk about in game theory? Rational decision-making, right? Assuming rational decision-making. So rather than being swayed by these like transient feelings and emotions, both in your personal and investing kind of context, it means making decisions based on logic, reason, and long-term goals, rather than those short-lived emotions, short-term goals. Fear, greed, excitement. This is all short-term bullshitty thinking. And it really is just, you can rewire a lot of this stuff. You can just rewire it. None of us have like perfect wiring. We all have to like rewire some stuff. So you start with your cognitive biases and their impact. Again, cognitive bias is a systematic deviation or a pattern of deviation from the norm or from rationality and judgment. Matter of fact, it comes up so often. Hold on. It comes up so often that I actually have a banner. Let me put it up here because it's important. The tendencies to think in certain ways that lead us to systematic deviations from a standard of rationality or sound judgment. Think to yourself, why do we make the decisions that we make? All right. And they cloud decision-making, both in your personal and investment spheres. So many of the ones that we talk about a lot, I mean, obviously, for the DPCs and digital investors, we have the 25 cognitive biases. It's like available. You can just go behind the wall in your investor resources. It's right there, and you can just start reading it and all that. And the group, we kind of twisted it towards the crypto space, but same. Anyway, confirmation bias, loss aversion, overconfidence bias. These are some of the ones you'll hear a lot. Confidence bias is like, we tend to favor information that confirms the beliefs we already had. So for investors, like pre-existing beliefs, right? So like for investors, it can lead us to being blind to warning signs about a bad investment, about bad individuals, about toxic relationships, right? Loss aversion. We feel the pain of loss more, like it has more power over us than the pleasure of a gain. I feel worse like if you score them. A loss for me is like a -3. A win is like a plus 0.5. I don't get much out of winning. I don't get much out of victories. I kind of go, whew, right? But when you lose, it is painful. It's gut-wrenching. Well, evolutionarily, think about it. If you lose, going from tree to tree branch, you fall to your death. If you lose and a bear's chasing you, you die. There's very dire circumstances for loss. It makes sense. Loss aversion makes sense, except we don't go tree branch to tree branch. We're not usually chased by bears anymore. And we are, especially in our lives now and in our investment life, they have to be zeroed out. You really should loss aversion should go to 0. You should have a 0 for a win, because That was the expected outcome of deep research and a study of game theory and cognitive bias. And if you have a loss, it is what it is, because you can't control the things you can't control. And sometimes things just lose. It doesn't matter whether the team is good, the timing, the technology, the tokenomic structure, all these things can be good, right? And you can still have a loser, because that's the way it works. None of us have a crystal ball. You can only do your best. You can only give 100%. There's no more to give. 110%. Well, bullshit. 110% is 100%. Anyway, so you got to get past loss aversion. You got to get past overconfidence bias, and that's overestimating our abilities or our own knowledge, and that which makes you start to do less research and just assume that you're good. Oh, I got the hot hand. Bullshit. There is no such thing as the hot hand, right? An investor might think that they can time the market perfectly despite evidence to the contrary. Like these technical analysis guys, they drive me crazy. Like, oh, there's like one Benjamin Cohen, nice guy, but like a total jackass. And he just makes these outrageous claims. They're never right. He never says, I got that one wrong. He just makes another outrageous claim based on technical analysis, which doesn't factor in anything but the past. You can't drive on a racetrack in the rear view, staring at the rear view mirror. You will crash. So again, you get, and people get overconfidence bias even after not having had success. They'll start to over rely on charting. They'll over rely on a specific kind of information because they think they have an edge, and they'll get overconfidence bias and still make no money. And at no point will they accept responsibility. But anyway, these are all part of those cognitive biases that are woven into our behavior, right? And they make us more likely to make bad decisions. So you say, okay, if I'm game theoretical, and I understand my cognitive biases, and I'm thinking about game theory, which at its core studies how people make decisions in situations where the outcome depend on the decisions of the other people on the other side of the table making those decisions, right? Emphasizing strategic thinking to make very solid theoretical predictions on other people's behavior, other people's rational behavior, right? And then I even have a cool banner for that. Because these things come up so often. A study of the mathematical models of the strategic interaction or interdependency between rational players in a game. From logic, computer science, economics, behavioral economics, evolutionary theory. It comes up a lot. So when you're thinking about game theory and you're thinking about how do I strategically think about and predict other people's actions, you reduce back to things like Nash equilibrium and zero-sum games. Nash equilibrium is a concept where basically every player's strategy is optimal given the strategies of all of the other players. So for investors, for us, understanding, what are everybody else's best decisions is really good because it can prevent us from being a part of herd behavior, right? Remember, we just want to stay ahead of the crowd just a little bit, just 2 to 6 months ahead of the crowd. So if you're following the crowd without independent analysis, you're part of the FOMO culture. You're the one that buys high and sells low, right? You have to stay ahead of the crowd. And that just, the crowd's not thinking about this stuff. The crowd's watching football, Bread and Circus. You guys know this, Juvenile. Like, come on, man. It's like, it's so obvious. It's like when I see people watching reality TV, I'm like, you're spending moments of your life watching someone else's fake moments of their fake life. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like it's beyond embarrassing. Anyway. And then they're like, you get so lucky. Oh, do I get lucky? Maybe spend some of the 2 hours a day you're watching Beverly Hills Housewives, or what is the one selling, what is, I don't even know what it's called, but it's the one where they're like selling real estate, those two douchebag twins. I know those guys, by the way, douchebags. Anyway, My buddy Brando and I were actually in their pilot, and we booked it out. We didn't sign the things. It was like, we thought it was a regular party, and they were filming their pilot, and we deuced out. Selling, what is it? I don't know. Anyway, I don't even know the name of it, but we didn't sign the waivers, so they couldn't use our footage. It's funny. Anyway, you'll talk. So not only Nash equilibrium, where you're thinking about optimal strategies based on everyone else's best optimal strategy, but zero sum games. You see this a lot. And this is where one person's gain is equivalent to another person's loss. You know, so like a football game is zero sum. There's a loser and a winner. You don't, selling sunsets, those fucking douchebags, pardon my French. Such douchebags, dude. That whole crew is all douchey, scummy, just, oh, you have no idea. I mean, you probably do. Anyway, zero sum games, a loser and a winner. And you start to realize, if you look at everything as zero sum, I mean, you have to recognize these scenarios. But like, if you're buying a house or you're buying a car, it's not zero sum. Both parties can walk away feeling like they won. And that's the key. There can be win-win scenarios. It's not mutually exclusive. The hypercycle company can win while the community members win, while the people pledging hardware win. You can have a win-win-win-win-win situation when you're arbitraging some delta or a chasm between an available service and a desired service. Or when you see, it's a kind of arbitrage. So in arbitrage situations, you don't have to have a winner or a loser, right? And if you recognize these situations, you can avoid emotional decisions that look a lot more like envy or fear of missing out, right? And so now you have to think, okay, I've got to integrate emotional control into my life. My personal thing is, I curse too much when I play. I probably curse too much anyway, but I definitely curse too much when I play video games. But I've noticed that I curse only when the microphone's on. If I turn my microphone off, I stay silent. So then I realize, wait a minute, I'm doing it to get under people's skin, which is quite dickish, but it does work. And that's the problem. I struggle with this. I grapple with the reality that when I'm a jerk, I get people out of their game and they perform worse. But then again, I think, well, yes, that makes them play worse. I will kill more bad guys. But on the other side of it, do I really want to be killing more bad guys if they're not playing at their best? It's like, what am I really winning? Like, I want to shoot people when they're doing their best. So actually, I should be motivating and uplifting. I'm working on that. Like, I'm working. It's a foible. I'm working on it. Anyway, to integrate emotional control, it resolves down to like four things: awareness of the issues, education, strategic planning, seeking counsel. Right? You can get help. Like, I know it sounds bad. Like, you guys are all getting help, right? We're always leveraging other people, information, things like that. So awareness. Recognize when your emotions are either taking over or they're starting to cloud your judgment. And if you regularly check decisions that you're making, and you look like, are there biases influencing my decisions? Is there herd mentality, or do I actually believe these things? Right? Education. You guys are all doing that. Understanding the basics of cognitive bias and game theory, because this acts as a shield against all these emotional pitfalls. Like, if you're aware of them, you've already like halfway beaten them. Most people are not aware, or they don't care. They just got their blinders. They don't give a crap. It's time, football time. Really? All day Sunday? You're going to spend a whole day watching other people get rich playing ball? Come on, bro. So stupid. Anyway, whatever. Strategic planning. Have a clear investment strategy. Stick to it. Avoid making impulsive decisions based on short-term market movements. If you're not selling today, then what difference does it make what the price of the asset is? None. If the price of hypercycle is 2 cents today, it makes no difference. If everybody, like the same people that will tell you, I'm never selling, I'm marrying my tokens to my node licenses, then they get mad when the price goes down. Well, if you're never selling and you're marrying your tokens to your node licenses, you're going to put them in production, what flipping difference does it make? It makes no difference, because you're going to be getting paid a percentage of what the compute era brings in. It's completely dissociated, unattached to the price of the token. Whether the token is $2 or $200, it makes no difference. There's a lot of breaks in rational thought and logic in investing, which is also why there's so much opportunity. That's kind of cool. Strategic planning. Have a clear investment strategy and stick to it. Use game theory. Do the work. Take the effort. Do your 5 T's. Avoid making impulsive decisions. Avoid following market trends. Be ahead of the trend, or just be aware that you're in one, right? And when in doubt, if you're not an expert, hire one, right? You can become an expert. You got one in your pocket. GPT-4, Claude 2, Ernie, if you're Chinese. Isn't it Ernie? Ernie 4? Come on, weird. They should have called it something cool like Ezekiel, but then that would like have connotations of like the Bible, and that they're not big fans of like communists, are not big fans of like deities. I'm not a big fan of deities either, but whatever. So discuss decisions with trusted advisors, peers. Go find different perspectives, external perspectives, to make sure that you're not falling into your own set of emotional biases, right? So to reduce all this, emotional control, bolstered by an understanding of both cognitive bias and game theory, will significantly enhance your decision-making over time in both your personal and your investing life. And they're both like attached to each other. So be aware of these things. Be aware that none of us are immune to them. We all have cognitive biases. We may all try to make game theory decisions, but we don't always do it all the time perfect. Like you constantly struggle with this, but it's a good struggle. It's a fun one. And these decisions start to become more rational. You avoid these pitfalls. You avoid the FOMO. You avoid following the trends instead of being in front of them, right? And then short-term decisions start to look more like longer-term decisions. It aligns with your personal goals and your values and whatever your, targets are for happiness and all this kind of stuff. And you find yourself winning more than losing. All you got to do is win 51% of the time. Casinos mint billionaires by winning 1% more than everyone else. That is all you have to do. 1%. Endeavor to be 1% better than the majority, and you will win. You will melt up because we make so many decisions in our life. You will melt up past your peers. You will rise past your peers, and there's nothing they will ever be able to do to catch you unless they want to go and do all the work, which they don't. No one does. So I don't know. It is so easy to continually win. I know it sounds bad. Like, it's super easy. All you have to do is work harder than everyone else. Yeah, but it's cerebral work, which is easy. No one here is limited. I don't care about the ADHD and all that other old bullshit, self-administering drugs. No, everybody here, if you can read for 1 minute without passing out, everybody here can work on being 1% better than their peers. And that's all you have to be. So I don't know, you tell me, there's 111 people here. Do you think you can get 1% better than your peers? Is there anybody here that doesn't think they can get 1% better? It's not that much. Anyway, let me know in the chat. We're going to go ahead and round it out. Stay in school. Don't do drugs. Don't do anything my poor and solvent drunk, strong on meth grandmother wouldn't do. Tomorrow, Brandon will be here with us. We will rock and roll. Digital investor. Be smart, go slow. You don't have to rush anything. Just be 1% better.
Are you tired of all the uneducated noise you're getting from the droves of YOLO meme coin peddling douchebag gurus out there trying to use you as their exit liquidity? Would you rather learn a competent university-level set of skills that will guide you in managing and investing for the rest of your life? Join us 3 days a week at Digital Investor. Develop your knowledge of game theory, cognitive bias, macroeconomics, monetary theory, investment theory, psychology of the crowds, and more. For more info on Digital Investor and how it can help you, reach out at nickblacknext.com.